everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at some photos that other people submitted to me, and we're just going to go through them and see how I would edit them. And in this case, I'm splitting this video in two, so the ones you see here highlighted in green, those will be in the next video. Today we're just going to be looking at these ones, but be sure to stick around if you want to see these cool shots being edited as well. So, starting with this one, we are going to see what looks good. How beautiful is this shot? Okay, I love a good retro car in a retro neighborhood. And I will preface this by saying that a lot of these are JPEGs. JPEG is not totally ideal to edit with, but it'll work, and I know a lot of you use JPEG, so it's useful to see how it works. And in this case, these ones are film scans by Sammy. So, we have JPEG film scans, so that's another interesting dynamic to look at. So here we go. This photo, we're getting back on track. Ooh, I really like gumdrop. So we're gonna start there. Really, we could just leave it there, but we're gonna play around. I wanna bring back some of the blue right here if we can, but without it looking weird. And then I would like to add some red shadows perhaps. Give it that really stylized film look, like from a movie or something. And let's see if we desaturate the red just a tad, not make it so punchy. And what's going on with our yellow? I think we want to keep it down. Stay down there, yellow. Let's see, orange. I think I'm going to further desaturate it. And that is about where I would leave this. So very desaturated, very vintage looking. I love this shot. The next two are also from this series. I love a good monochromatic pink shot. And I know in advance that bubblegum looks good on this because it has a lot of red shadow tones, which are right here, and that just makes the pink really pop. So let's get to work. First thing I'm noticing is that the orange in her face and skin, and maybe even the cement, is a little bit too red, too saturated. So we're getting rid of some of that. And we don't want to get rid of too much red because a lot of this is red, registering as red. Magenta, actually a lot of it is magenta, that's good. And let's brighten it up a bit. I want to bring some of that magenta back, because when we brightened it we lost a little color. And does this have any grain on it? No, let's add some grain in there to give it a really nice filmic look. I don't always add grain, and my style isn't super grainy, but I do love the look of grain. Now we're just balancing everything out. I don't want it to be too low contrast. And this bush, we can do something about this bush. So the green, we kind of want it to blend in more with this orangey dead stuff. So if we take the yellow or green, let's see what it does. We can kind of make it less noticeable. So see how the difference isn't as drastic between the orange and the green? Okay, I think that's nice. And let's adjust the tilt just a little bit. Straighten it out. And now I'm just playing around with the toning. Can't decide if I like it cooler or warmer. I think warmer. Okay, so sometimes I like to use reference mode to see if these photos look like they belong together, because, you know, they are from the same set. And I know it's not the same scene at all, but it's useful because, you know, if these are being published somewhere, you want them to look cohesive. So just, you know, trying to match the level of contrast and the overall tones with the other photo. Okay, I would say that those two look like they belong together. And we could just copy and paste, but this is an editing tutorial, so we're not going to do that. To keep the consistency, we could use bubblegum again, which is what I would be doing, but just seeing if anything else looks good. Let's go with bubblegum. I know that this tilt was intentional, but I'm going to fix it a little bit. Not fix it, it's just my personal preference to have it a little straighter. And I know we can't do accurate lens corrections with a JPEG, but ooh, see, look at what happens. That's fun. We are going to just get rid of that vignetting a little bit. It's artificial corrections because it doesn't really know what lens it was taken with, but we're just using the profile of this Sigma lens to correct it. And is there, can I correct that tilt anymore without losing too much? No, I think I'll just leave it to 2. Okay, there we go. First thing I'm noticing, her skin is way too saturated. And let's lift the contrast and just the overall exposure. And what's going on with our red shadows? I think our yellow looks a little funky, like maybe it needs to be desaturated a little more. This is very stylized to move the yellow all the way to the pink side or the orange side, but I like it quite a bit over in this case. And what's going on with the red? We want that pink to definitely be saturated. What if we take away some of the warmth? Again, I'm going to use reference mode. You click here, and I can drag this photo here. We're just trying to make sure they belong together. So that already looks decent, and whatever photo you have selected, you're going to be editing. Maybe I want to add a little grain. Where are you, grain? Boom. That looks like it could practically be the 70s or 60s. I don't know my eras. Yeah, I think I'd leave that there. So that's where we started, that's where we ended. Now on to this photo. We can get rid of this. So this is a film scan by Sammy, and very green and cool toned to start with. So remember, it is a JPEG, which is going to make our work a little bit harder, but we are going to play with it. So I typically underexpose my photos quite a bit more, which is why these presets like make them look so much brighter. But you can always correct that if you didn't start low. I mean, it's all personal preference, so you can always either correct the photo or correct the presets, whatever you want to do to make your photo the right exposure. We're going to start with caramel. First thing we're going to do is lower the exposure, lower the highlights and the whites, and get rid of some of the warmth. And then we would like to get rid of some of the yellow down here, which is very vibrant and dark. I do like it kind of dark because it brings back some of the details in a lot of the house. But what if we make it, well, I like it on the orange side, but let's make it less saturated. And then let's make the orange a little bit more yellow and bring it back a little. And what I think this really needs is my favorite thing, red shadow tones. And then aqua. What are you doing, aqua? Are you even here? Not really. I was hoping this would be aqua, but it's probably yellow or green. Yes, it's green. Well, it's pretty isolated, so that's good. And by isolated, I mean it's not like green over here as well, because we don't want to mess with the grass, but we do want to mess with the house. So we're going to make that a little cooler to create some separation and some balance with the warmth we've added. And let's see, I think we added a little bit too much orange. It needs to be warmer. Okay, let's add some grain because I'm in a really grainy mood today. And this is a film scan after all, so why not make it totally filmy? So you can see we've added a lot of warmth, but not too much in my opinion. And we've just made it look more welcoming, which depending on your goals, you may want your photography to look cool and unwelcoming. Like, that's a different mood to set, but my work is all about the warmth and happiness. So I think we added a bit of that. Next, another shot from the same set. So this is a little tricky because if we zoom in here, let's apply something, you can see that there's a lot of come on. Okay, you can see that there's a lot of noise going on here. It probably has something to do with the scan and the JPEG, but ordinarily we don't have that problem when we're editing firsthand with our own photos. So the shadows we know are not handling well, so we're going to have to modify our efforts based on that. Let's start with Jelly Bean. And I can't raise the shadows much because look at that noise. So this will be a little bit darker than my usual edit because we can't raise the shadows. But we do know from raising the shadows that there's a lot of blue in her hair, which we can get rid of. And maybe some purple too. Yes. So we got rid of those. Now we're going to put the shadows back down. And now it's looking a little too yellowy for my taste, so we're going to take the orange to the red side. And let's see, what about the green? Wow, her face is registering as yellow, which is very interesting. And then we're going to see what the green does. That's what I was looking for. Do we want it on the yellow side? I don't know. We'll come back to that. Let's add some red shadows in. And I'm so tempted to raise the shadows, but I know that will not go over well in this case. So that is looking decent. Do we want more warmth? No, I don't think we do. I also love this little, what do you call this? Light leak at the bottom. Very cool. And I love shoots on tennis courts. Like, I think tennis courts are one of the coolest props to incorporate. Or not props, but settings. So I can't say I'm like completely happy with this because I would like to make it a little brighter, but I'm just going to have to resist that urge, and I think that this is a decent edit for the setting that we have. I do like the edit, or the original, the film scan, a lot, so honestly you could just leave it like that, but this is what I would do to it for what is in my power to do to it. And let's move on to this one. Again, I am also loving just this unedited, really cool, and I mean cool as in temperature, vibe to this shot, but we're going to play with it because we're in an editing tutorial. So again, we have that really green and blue layer to start with, we're using Jelly Bean, and I'm going to increase the warmth but decrease the yellow in her face, which is probably registering as yellow again. Yes, it is. And let's amp it up a little. Already, I kind of like that. Let's bring back some of the blue, if it's there. I love that. Bring back some of the green. So in this case, we're kind of like leaning into the cool colors. We're not resisting them, but we are making the overall image a lot warmer. I love that. Okay, that's where I would leave that. So that was Jelly Bean. I'm sure we can do the exact same thing here. For the sake of time, I'm going to copy and paste because there's not much new here to learn. But then we're going to darken it a bit and keep darkening because her face is still very bright. And let's get rid of a little bit of that green and blue. That looks very filmic, like the tones of her face and just the balance between everything. You can definitely tell it was shot on film. So that's where I'd leave that one. And we're going to copy and paste again. Actually, maybe we're not. We are going to find a new preset for this. Marshmallow looks pretty nice. Marshmallow it is. Okay, we have kind of the same thing going on with the shadows here. Very grainy, very noisy. So we can't lift them too much, but we can do our best. When you can't lift the shadows, you can always reduce contrast in other ways. So I made such a drastic change in the orange because see how her face is like very distinctly orange? We're gonna just make sure it's the right tone and make the yellow a little more orange. I'm all about the red shadow tones today and pretty much every day. Again, this is not an accurate lens correction because we don't know the lens, but I always apply lens corrections anyway because it helps with the vignetting. Okay, what if we add a little more green to the tint? Green tint is very much a film thing, shooting with film. As we've seen from the unedited versions of these photos, they are very green tinted. Depends on the film, I guess. So that's pretty much where I'd leave that one. That was Marshmallow. Now we're shifting into a different shoot by the same photographer. Gorgeous portrait. Let's see. Oh, come on, don't freeze on me. Jelly Bean. Why do all of these look so good with Jelly Bean? Maybe because Jelly Bean's a little darker and these are brighter than I usually work with. Okay, to switch it up, we're going to use something totally different that we haven't used before. Which will be, let's try Mint. Right off the bat, definitely needs some changes. Her skin is very yellow. I'm going to add some red shadows in there. Her skin is registering as yellow, so we're going to pull that over here. And we are going to make her scarf a little more green. And what if we cool it down? I think it still needs to be darkened. So we've added some warmth to her face. And let's see what her lips, like if we saturate them a little more. Okay. Maybe I took it too dark. Just a little too dark. Okay, that's where I would leave this one. We just made it a little bit more lively and, you know, her skin looks more natural. But other than that, it was a beautiful photo to start with. Now we have the same lady, and we're going to see, this is darker to start with, so you'll see that the presets look a lot better. You'll see that the presets look a lot better when you hover over them. Mint again looks good, which is what we used before. Let's use mint. We're going to go with mint again just because. Oops, did not mean to click auto. That is my worst nightmare. Again, we have kind of noisy shadows, but that's okay. We're going to desaturate the orange. Maybe make it a little less clear. Overall desaturation. Get rid of some of the red. I think maybe what I wanted to do was get rid of the red, not so much the orange. And what about the blue? Okay. Let's see, do we want to make it warmer? I think we do, but not that warm. Okay, that's looking decent. I think, I think we don't want any red shadows because that green tint is just so pretty in this case. I think we want to preserve that. Okay, so that's where I would leave that. We really just brightened it up a little bit, but it was a beautiful film shot to begin with, so I might not even do anything to it, but that was fun to play with. So that marks the end of this part of the tutorial. In the next video, we'll be looking at these photos. So be sure to subscribe and come back and check this one out. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you would like to purchase the presets, the link to them is in the description.